Okay, ladies and gentlemen, right. Remember where we stopped yesterday? Where did we stop? We couldn't do much yesterday because you had to go and do your work on your assignment, right? Okay. We were talking about stakeholders. Stakeholders. Like I explained to you before now, that you need to be able to manage the stakeholders that are involved in your project, most especially the key stakeholders. You know what I mean by the key stakeholders? Like I said, when you got we got different types of stakeholders involved in a project, right? And each of these stakeholders, they've got their own different needs, different expectations. In other words, you need to be able to satisfy diverse needs, expectations of the stakeholders. Otherwise, the project is not going to uh, be successful, right? So you see, I told you you must be coming to Christ. See, this thing is turning now. Right? Okay. So you're gonna still go out. Okay. So you must be able to manage each of. Maybe you're gonna take care now, right? Please, man. I'm sorry for that. It's still following you. Okay, no problem. So you must be able to manage each of these stakeholders, right? For example, when we're talking about stakeholders, yesterday we tried to I explained to you some of these stakeholders. Could be client, it could be community leaders, right? It could be what community members, beneficiaries. You see, the slide I'm using now is different from the one I used yesterday. Can you notice that? Right. I think this style is very nice, man. The background is look much more artistic. It's more. It look much more aesthetic. I mean, then the suppliers, project team members, laborers, project managers, right? Project sponsors. Remember yesterday somebody was asking me, you were the one, the difference between the team members and the laborers, right? I said laborers could be uh, people hired just for a few hours, on a casual basis, right? Perhaps the team members are the ones that are involved in the project or will be involved in the project throughout, right? Okay, rather than being on a casual basis, right? I give you an example of movies. When they are shooting movies, they can just hire people for just few days or 1 day or 2 days, whereas there are some other people, team members, working throughout the whole process of the project, being movie making or whatever. Then you have directors and all the, we talk about this. Then yesterday, I remember we talked about the categories of stakeholders, right? Those ones that are directly involved and those ones that have interest in affecting it. I gave you an example of a union, right? Then, like I explained to you, each stakeholders, they've got their own needs and expectations. For example, what will the team members be interested in? Right? People working in the project. They will be interested in their welfare, right? Okay. So needs stroke interest of stakeholders. So each stakeholders has needs and expectation from a project. Hello, focus, please, man. You are not here to take photos of yourself. Please, focus. Then, so this needs and expectation depends on the perspective of the stakeholders. It depends on the perspective of the stakeholders. The sponsors, the needs and expectations of the sponsors cannot be the same with a team member. It's obvious. Do you understand what I mean? Right. Then we said it is fundamental role of a project to meet the needs of each stakeholder. It's very, very imperative. You know what I mean by imperative? Imperative means important, right? Very, very crucial that the needs of the stakeholders must be met. Then the stakeholder needs in a project are always different. right? Like I explained to you just now, we got diverse needs. You know what I mean by diverse? How do you pronounce it? Is it diverse? You call it diverse, right? Okay. What do you mean by diverse? Different, varied, varieties of needs, various needs, diverse. If I may borrow your pronunciation, right? Diverse needs, different needs, because you got different stakeholders involved in the project, right? You imagine it. To satisfy those needs is not an easy task. You understand what I mean? If you are a project manager, you need to satisfy the various needs of the stakeholder. So it's not an easy task, right? You need to be able to understand. You must first of all understand their needs, their expectations, before you can be able to satisfy those needs and expectations. So we said you got different stakeholders management is very important. The process in which you as a project manager, hello, yeah, don't distract me, please. You want me to, I'm gonna tell you that, please focus. So the process at which you as a project manager strive to make sure that you understand the needs of the various stakeholders. Let me call it diverse needs, right? Diverse needs of the stakeholders and making sure that you satisfy those diverse needs. That process is what we refer to as stakeholders management. Right. So it is very important, as we said here, it's an important discipline that successful project managers uses to do what? Win, uses to win support from others. In other words, stakeholders management is very important, right? For it's a way of the project manager trying to striving to win support. Win support means buy in. You know what I mean by buy-in? That is a common language here, buy-in. Right. All the stakeholders must buy in. Any attempt for any stakeholders to be left out or without you as a project manager securing the buy-in of that particular stakeholder, that stakeholder may go and stab you at the back. Right? So it will make your project to be regarded as something that is not successful. Right. Then stakeholders analysis is very important, right? How will you be able to know what the stakeholders are? You need to analyze the needs and expectations of the stakeholders. Remember we said their needs depends on their perspective, right? So you should be able to analyze their needs. So that is what we call stakeholders analysis. So it's a technique used to identify the key people that are involved in a project. The key people. You have to look for the key people that are involved in the project and make sure that you are able to win them over to secure their buy-in. Once you secure their buy-in, you know you are doing the right thing. The project is on the way to success. But if you are unable to secure their buy-in, that is where problem arises at the end of the day. For example, when you hear people totoy, is it totoy you call it demonstrating? You know why they do that? Because they were not, perhaps the project manager was unable to secure their buy-in. Do you understand what I mean? Because if you are part of the project, there is no way you're gonna kick against it. You see what I mean? If your buy-in is been secured in a project, you're not gonna kick against it. Do you understand what I'm saying, William? Right. Is your surname not William? What is your surname again? Huh? Yeah. Vivian. Williams. Huh? Williams. Are you following what we are doing? Please don't be distracted, right? You're doing something else perhaps. Don't be distracted. Please focus. Are you understanding? Yeah. Okay. So for your project to succeed, you must secure the buy-in of the stakeholders. How do you do that? You must analyze their needs so that you can be able to provide for their needs. Very important. Hey, I love this. Check out this man. I love it. This one is not in your textbook. You notice this? It's not in your textbook. I went somewhere to borrow this stuff and put it here because it's very good. This thing is very good for me to explain to you how to do stakeholders analysis, right? Okay. I love this chart, this uh, graph or whatever, this grid. The grid is very nice, right? So if you want to do stakeholders analysis, one can make use of this grid, right? Like I told you, stakeholders analysis is a career of itself. It's very nice. I've seen a lot of advertisement in the newspaper or job placement. They're looking for people to be in charge of stakeholders analysis. Did you see? It's a career of itself. This one very important. What we are doing today. You can use this knowledge to secure a job, to get a job to do. So look at this grid. Power stroke interest grid for stakeholders, right? For stakeholders prioritization. What does it mean? To prioritize. Because from this grid, you can be able to know the key stakeholders to prioritize when, right? When dealing with your stakeholders. When you look at this quadrant, or when you look at this grid, you got four quadrants. One, two, three, four. Right. Then vertically you got the power. This is power, right? Then you got the interest. We are trying to analyze now power versus interest of stakeholders in a project. Right. For example, you see this quadrant, this bottom one, right? What it means is if you are doing your stakeholders analysis, if it happens to fall within this quadrant, which is low power, low interest, what do you do to this type of stakeholders? Put minimal effort, right? Right, because these people, they don't have power to influence the project and they got no interest. You see? So you don't so much bother about these people. Did you see the analogy, the sense of this is very important, right? Help you. This one can even help you in doing other things, not only project management, in dealing with people. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, look at this quadrant. Quadrant. What it means? Low power, high interest. They got no power, right, to influence the project, but they got interest in the project. How will you be able to secure their buy-in? You must keep them informed. Always keep them informed. Once they know about once they are updated regarding what is happening in the project, they are all right. They just want to know about what is happening. They won't give you problem as long as you keep on updating them. Communicate with them. Tell them what is happening. They're gonna be all right. Do you understand what I mean? Did you see how important this thing is? Right? Okay, let's look at this quadrant. Right? Jonah, this one have got power. Right? You got power in the project, but you got no interest. They can influence it. Such stakeholders are forced within this quadrant. They got power, authority, but they don't have interest. Just keep them satisfied. Keep them satisfied. Right? Look at the most dangerous one. In goes these guys, they got power to influence the project and they got interest. This one, you must make sure that you manage them closely. Right? Make sure how will you be able to manage them closely? Let them be part of the decision making. Do you understand what I mean? You see, you can gain a lot of senses from here. Right? It's very nice. You manage them closely. Power in the exam, perhaps in the external exam, when you are given something of this nature, or maybe you are given a question that relates to stakeholders analysis. You remember to put this stuff here. I'm telling you, once you put this stuff there, the teacher, the examiner will give you a full mark because this one is not in your textbook. The teacher, the examiner, or whosoever that is examining your paper is going to give you full mark because you've done justice to that question. You know how to analyze stakeholders. Right? Okay. Do you understand it? Any doubt? You think about it, right? In real application, in real in reality, this thing is happening. When you see somebody that got power and got interest, and if that person is not managed closely, he's gonna have a problem, right? You must make sure that you keep that person to your armpit, close to you. Be quiet. Make that person to be quiet. Sometimes that is what is happening in the government. They are playing around with this thing too. When they see somebody is talking too much, you know what they do? They give that person a portfolio. Then the person is gonna be quiet. Remember this DA guy. What is the name of this DA guy that resigned? Hostense. How do you pronounce his name? Stenzen. The Minister for Agriculture. The leader for DA. Yeah, Hestense. Remember that guy used to make too much mouth. He was always attacking ANC, right? When they formed GNU, they gave him a post as a minister. The man was quiet. He said, now we don't have to be fighting the ANC, we must work together. You see, take an example from that because he was someone that got power and got interest. Then the ANC brought him into their camp. They gave him a position, then they sealed his mouth. Did you see what I mean? Yeah, that is what I'm talking about. It's politics. You can play it around. It's a chess game. This is like a chess. You know how to play chess here. You know how to play chess. You know how to play chess. Yeah. You see, this thing is more or less like a chess game. All right. Now, an examples of stakeholders analysis, right? This one is just a typical example of a stakeholders analysis in a specific project. So this project, we call it installation of new computer system in a department. The bottom line here is, or rather the take home from here is that I told you stakeholders got diverse needs, right? When you look at the stakeholders here now, they got different roles and diverse and different needs, right? So based on that, you see their needs, some are positive, some are negative. So you need to be able to know what their needs are for you to be able to prescribe or yeah, you need to be able to diagnose what their needs are so for you to be able to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do to be able to make things right. Then this list you got, or this column, list of stakeholders, right? Then needs stroke interest of stakeholders. Needs, so positive, negative, then participation tactics. This one could be on, yeah, this one is the remedy, right? What you need to do to be able to secure their buy-in. The last column, when we say participation tactics, the remedy, what you can be able to do to make sure that they participate in the project, right? To enhance their participation in the project, which could be in form of a remedy, right? To solve the problem. Okay, you see a list of stake managers. What do managers want? For example, positive interest wants to improve productivity of the department, obviously. Remember the project we are talking about, installation of a new computer system in a department. When you install new computer system in a department, obviously it's going to enhance the productivity, right? The managers will be interested in improving the productivity once the computers are interested. So the manager will be interested in ensuring that the project of installation of new computer system in the department is done to achieve the objective so that he can be able to improve the productivity in his department. Does it make sense to you? So his interest, right, on the positive side of it would be to improve productivity, right? So on the negative side, there could be a kind of skepticism of computer system, no knowledge of computer technology. Okay, what are we trying to say now? You see, to install new computer system obviously is going to enhance productivity. Now the manager could be skeptical in terms of the knowledge, right? The knowledge of people already working there. Because if they don't know how to make use of the computer, what is going to happen? Even if you install the computer, state of the art computers, and there are no people with knowledge to apply the computers, that means the objective of improving the productivity will be defeated. Does it make sense to you? Right. For example, now, let's say the college wants to introduce a digital system to enhance teaching and learning in West Coast College, right? So let's buy them gadget of this nature, right, for the lecturers. So obviously, when you got something of this nature, it will enhance teaching and learning. But the question is, do the lecturers know how to use it? Do you understand what I mean? So the campus manager now have perhaps will be worried. If the lecturers don't know how to use it, you will end up, or rather the college will end up investing money in the buying the gadget, and nobody will going to use the gadget. Did you see? That one is a negative interest of the manager. So what do you do now to remedify that thing? Because it's a problem now. Something must be done to remedify it, right? As a way of enhancing the participation, as a tactics to enhance the participation to make sure that the project is successful. So you need to participate in the deployment of the new computer system. So you involve them in the deployment of the new computer system. Perhaps you can even send people out for training. Right. Okay. Why do we say you need to involve the managers now? So that the manager can be informed in terms of how this thing is going to work. Because it's already skeptical. Perhaps we don't have people to use the computer, right? So in the meeting now, you need to enlighten the manager. This is what we are going to do to make it work. Then with that, you put the manager's mind at rest. Okay, if it is like this, let's do it. It's gonna work. Then through that, you will secure the buy-in of the managers. Does it make sense to you? Right. Then the staff. The staff, what do they want? Right? They want to improve performance too as well, right? But like what mostly happens, people are always having that resistance to change. You know what I mean? For example, they will say when you introduce the computers now, what is going to happen? We're going to take over our job, right? Okay, that could be one reason. Another reason could be because they got no knowledge of it, right? People like to sit in their comfort zone. They don't want to work hard to improve on themselves. So such people can be resistant, right? Can resist such change. So what you need to do to solve that, you deliver a series of training workshops to explain to them. Did you see what I mean? Yeah, this is what we are talking about. So time is over now. So let's stop here, right? Yeah. So you enjoy your weekend, huh?